Hey guys, my name is TeeDubz and welcome to Game Reviews and More. And before you switch off this video thinking I'm a little kid, just like to say that I'm not a little kid. I'm actually 16, which is how old you're supposed to be able to post videos on Game Reviews and More. And I'm not a little boy. I'm not a male at all. And you can draw your own conclusions with that. Anyway, so I actually did not want to do Call of Duty for my first Game Reviews and More posts. I actually wanted to do Battlefield Bad Company 2, but the reason I haven't is just because I suck at that game so bad. And I'm not really sure if anyone wants to watch me sucking. So I'm kind of taking the safe route right now and just doing what everyone else is doing. But I promise, next time I do anything on Game Reviews and More, or on my own channel, I will not do Call of Duty at all. I will switch it up. But anyway, I actually had this idea for a commentary on my own channel, but I saw that Game Reviews and More was back up, and it made me really excited because when Junkyard first started doing Game Reviews and More, I had just started my channel, and I knew he had said not to post videos if you didn't have anything yet, so just to get started before you start trying to get yourself out there. So now I have 48 subscribers, so I think I'm started enough to try to get myself out there. So this is commentary that is sort of, I don't know, it's not anything else that I've seen on Game Reviews and More. It's on sort of a serious topic. Not really serious, not like serious isn't bad, but it's not about video games and stuff like that. But before I go into that, a little tiny bit about the gameplay. I'm using the stakeout with grip, and I'm just only level 14, so I only have the basic stuff. So I'm using lightweight, sleight of hand, and hacker. No pro stuff yet, just a little newbie. And I was not playing the objective at all. I'm sorry. I was having too much fun running around with this stakeout that I just got. So I'm sorry for that. Anyway, on to the topic at hand. I have just come back from another country. If you don't already know this, which you probably don't, I live in the United States, and I just came back from Japan. And I'm sure you guys have heard all the stuff that's going on in Japan. I mean, if you haven't, then you probably live under a rock or in a cave or somewhere where you don't have internet, which is why I'm wondering why you're watching this right now. Anyway, so the stuff in Japan, it's pretty bad. It's pretty terrible. I said this on one of my other commentaries. It's sad. It really is. I mean, a bunch of people have died, but what people don't seem to realize, and what Western media doesn't portray, is that it's only in this small part of Japan, under Hokkaido on the bottom island. I don't know what it's called, but under Hokkaido in the northeast, I'm not sure, northeast corner. That's only where it's bad. Everywhere else, the only other thing that's going wrong anywhere else is they're having rolling blackouts and stores are closing early to save energy because of the nuclear stuff. And I mean, that is sort of bad now, because now the radiation is so bad in the water that small children can't drink it. But that's not what I wanted to talk about exactly. And that's only near as far as Tokyo. That's not the whole country. Only as far as Tokyo, which is a pretty small radius considering how big the country is. I mean, it's tiny, but it's not that small. But anyway, I went there about 11 days ago, stayed there for 10 days, and our plan was to stay in Tokyo for 4 days and then go to Nara, or a prefecture in Nara. But we didn't. We ended up going to Hiroshima because everything was closed in Tokyo. And I've got to say, if you want to go to any Asian country, Japan is probably the country to go to. I mean, I'm not trying to diss any other Asian countries, but I'm just saying it seems like Japan would be the best place to go. It's just such a nice country. I mean, one way to show you how good of a country it is there are not trash cans anywhere in the city, but the city is spotless. The only thing that you'll find on the ground is cigarette butts, and that's just because Japan is... Okay, this is what my sister told me. My sister lives in Japan. I'm not really sure if this is true, but she told me that Japan has the highest amount of percentage of smoking in any developed country, which I can believe. It seemed like everyone smoked. I mean, I would see kids in the smoking area who looked like they barely turned 18. It just seems like everyone smokes there. But everyone is just so nice, and they just actually care about you. It's just such great customer service. Even though I don't know any Japanese, they would still try to make sure I was okay and everything. I don't know. It's just such a nice country to visit. The only thing I would have to complain about is traditional Japanese food, which is not that good. I mean, I've had traditional Chinese food. No, I'm not talking about Panda Express. I've had traditional Chinese food, and I've liked it. I've really liked it. I've had traditional Thai food. I've really liked that too. Traditional Japanese food, eh. And I also had traditional Korean food when I was in Japan, and that ended up being my favorite foods were the Korean foods. I kind of thought that was funny. But anyway, back to me going to Hiroshima. We went to Hiroshima the third day of our trip, and it's a really nice city. I'm sure most of you know the city from the bombing that happened there, and actually near the hypocenter of where the bomb was dropped in the middle of the city. There's a museum and a park pretty much based on getting rid of nuclear weapons and having world peace. And that is a really good place to go if you want to be depressed for the rest of your life. Well, maybe not the rest of your life, but I was depressed for a good 12 hours. I did not feel very well. I felt like a jerk to be in the country that just dropped a nuke on a town of people, innocent people who had nothing to do with anything. Now granted, a lot of people argue that all the children that had died in there might have grown up to be part of the Japanese army and hate Americans, but I mean, they were just so innocent, and you hear about it in school, how many people died. I think it was in Hiroshima. I don't know how many in Nagasaki, but I think there was like 180,000 people. I don't know, don't quote me. I went to the museum, but I wasn't really paying attention to numbers. I was just looking at the pictures and like how they had exhibits of people's clothes, kids' clothes, and the kids were wearing it, and they were just burned and tattered, and you just really don't understand how bad it was until you see evidence of how bad it was and you learn the backgrounds of the people who died. I mean, there was a 3-year-old who was on a tricycle who died the next day because he was burned so bad over his body. They had an exhibit of mannequins. It was a woman and 2 children. The children couldn't have been, well, one was a young teenager, a preteen, and then the other one had to be like 10 years old, and they were walking with their arms out, sort of like zombies, with their face swollen and skin. Oh, I'm sorry, this is graphic. Okay, this is graphic. Before you say anything, this is graphic. Their skin was hanging off of their arms. I mean, it was just mannequins, but it said how many people were just wandering around like that, disoriented, not even knowing what happened to them. And then afterwards, because of the heat and all the dust, black rain fell, and everyone was going crazy because they were so thirsty because of the heat from the blast and everything, that they just drank this black rain, and that made them even sicker. And I mean, you hear about all this stuff in history class, but it just doesn't prepare you for when you actually see the faces of the people that died, and before you know their lives and everything. And before I went there, I was like, you know, the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, they were necessary. They had to happen. But now that I've been to that museum, I'm not really sure if they had to happen. It just seems like cities shouldn't be targets. Innocent people who had nothing to do with it shouldn't have been targets. And it kind of shows you how in the United States you think that you have your opinion on everything, and nothing you ever learn is biased. But I learned that it doesn't matter where you live, everything will always be biased, even if you live in the United States. Anyway, this was a pretty serious commentary by TeeDubz. Hope you enjoy it. See you guys later. Oh, and by the way, check out my